Hello and welcome to the second session, which is the Ethical Microenterprise series. And today I am going to talk about existing microenterprises within the International Permaculture CoLab. If you haven't seen the first episode in the series, I recommend you watch that first. It does give some background about why we're doing the series and what we will be covering. And if you couldn't make it today, you're probably watching the recording, in which case, if you have any questions, please let us know in the comment section or in the thread where the video is posted on Slack. The video is targeted primarily to existing members of the CoLab who have already attended a onboarding session. And this means that you already have an idea of which circles and working groups exist because you would already have seen the map of the CoLab and had the introduction through that. If you are watching this on YouTube and you are not a CoLab member, then I suggest you head over to our website, which is perma.earth, and have a read through our website with the information. And you can also have a look at what it takes to become a member and what membership involves and the process to do that. And I will keep a lookout on the chat as well to make sure I catch any questions if there are any during today's session. We are scheduled to be on for an hour, but it could be that we finish earlier, so we'll see how far we get. Okay, so today's session is all about microenterprises that are existing within the CoLab. And I want to start with the one that has been established the longest, and that's the Digital Circle. So the Digital Circle started a few years ago, and the idea was that a group of freelancers got together to provide a service to the International Permaculture CoLab. So that was essentially the first client that the circle had. Since its foundation, the members have changed, and we have about now 4 to 5 core team members of the services team. But there's also a number of consultants that chip in when we have specific work coming up within the CoLab. What's interesting about the Digital Circle services team is that it's always evolving, and throughout the years we have increased our range of services. So we started with offering simple websites on WordPress, and they were, I remember, priced very competitively at the time. This was when basically, you could still create websites online using templates and so on, but the cost was quite prohibitive. And now, obviously, the cost of setting up a website is relatively cheap if you know what you're doing. The complexity comes in when you're setting up e-learning websites or websites that have complex functionality beyond the WordPress blog, let's say. And so here comes in then the technical support, which is I think our most popular service at the moment. We've also been involved in programming some apps using no-code coding apps, which sound easy to use, but actually you have to be quite technical to set up and make sure they're working properly. And now we have a lot of apps which are available to our customers, and I can try to share my screen here so that you can have just an idea of this. So as you can see here, there's a number of apps, and these are not all of them. So depending on the client's needs, we match the correct product to the client's needs and make sure that they're finding the best open source ethical apps for their needs. For the CoLab in particular, we provide a Nextcloud installation. We also provide the WordPress website, which hosts information about all the projects that are going on within the CoLab. And we also host a number of other circles, which I will talk about now because they are also microenterprises in their own right. And so this is where our beginnings truly started for offering service to in-house in-house circles. Different clients have different methods of funding their the money or to get the service. And we are a little bit flexible with clients usually to try and find the best and most economical solution that works for both the freelancers that are in the circle and the client's needs. So it's a very bespoke circle and bespoke service also. So current team members are myself. There is also Javier, Anton, and Julius, who is the newest member of our team. And we're also onboarding a new member. Then there's satellites, like I said, freelancers that come in and out of the circle depending on what's needed, and they mostly do graphic design and so on. It's a very interesting dynamic we have in the team. We are not a team that meets every week or every day even, but we have a very well-organized system in which we talk to the client, onboard the team with the team that's going to work with the client, and basically we have a good CRM system or customer relationship management system to make sure that we don't fall between the cracks with the different clients. I would say we have about 60 services that are at the moment that we maintain for different clients. Like different clients need different things, and sometimes they use more than one service. It's been really an interesting journey for this team because we started without really much infrastructure, and we built that according to how the business was developing. Within the team, we have an income sharing system. So 5% of the fees that we make of our invoices go towards paying for our fiscal host, because we are not a company. The Digital Circle is a collection of freelancers and not an organization. And by virtue of having a fiscal host, we can make sure we have a central place where the invoices are getting paid and issued from. And at the same time, then each freelancer can invoice the micro enterprise directly. So we don't invoice the client, we go through the Digital Circle to do this. It's quite effective. Each freelancer obviously has to make sure that their fiscal taxation identity is set up for this. And the client pays a fixed rate, and then each of us invoice the Digital Circle internally. So you don't have to, as a client, you don't have to pay 3 people for doing one job. You pay once, and in the background, we sort out our finances between us. Then about 10% goes towards the income sharing, and this covers basically the transaction fees and also the costs of running the circle, such as financial admin, project management, and so on. It's also a possibility for the teams to decide internally how to use that money. If, for example, if we have a client who has a great project but ran out of funding this year and we want to subsidize the hosting for another year whilst they're looking for funding, we would consider that and decide as a team whether this is a feasible thing to do or not. It's basically a pot of money which is there for the team to decide how to use. We use a Sociocratic system to decide together how we proceed with different things. And this system allows for everyone to assess the situation and decide for themselves whether they have an opinion about it. Maybe at the moment they don't, and it's okay with them, whichever way the decision is made. But it takes into account every clarifying question and every objection that comes up, then it's dealt with. And it's not that someone is in charge in any one team, but all the members of the team have the freedom to commit themselves more to the team. Maybe they want to put in the hours to bring in more clients, or to do a bit marketing, or to do more research, or whatever, within their capacity. And within the circle's financial situation, let's say, if they want to do that, they can do this, and any team member can make proposals to be considered by the rest of the team. So as such, the Digital Circle Services team is what we call an open circle. It does have an onboarding process, and it does consider requests to join the team very seriously. So we would consider what skills is this new person bringing? Have we already worked with them before? And if we haven't worked with them before, there would be a trial period. There is one-to-one meetings, onboarding of different systems, depending what their skills are and which clients they would be working with in the beginning, especially. And even though I'm saying it's an open circle, there is a process to it. It's not just, you wake up today and you say, today I'm going to join the Digital Circle Services team. No, yes, that's fine. You can state that into the Digital Circle Slack channel, and then members of the services team will contact you and set up the necessary meetings to kickstart that process. Just like any other circle in the CoLab, we have autonomy about how to run our circle. So the team members have autonomy between themselves to make decisions about how the circle is run. And this also involves picking our own pricing, choosing our own clients, and assessing basically how the tasks are distributed within the team based on skills and capacity at the time when the work shows up, let's say. And also it determines how people join and leave the team. So I've covered various points here. I've covered some of the services that we offer, who is in the team right now, that we are an open circle with an asterisk, that there is a process behind it. And also we've covered a little bit about the governance of the circle. Because we are a part of the CoLab in general, and because the CoLab is also our client, so we are the service provider and the client at the same time, it makes for an interesting relationship. And we have a representative on the general circle to make sure that other teams know what's happening. And it's a way for us to keep, let's say, the client, which is also ourselves, informed of the technical issues or challenges that the CoLab may face. Right now, we are in the second year of a 3-year funding, where the services that Digital Circle provides to the CoLab is paid for. And after this third year, we definitely have to sit together with the rest of the community to figure out, as the client, how we're going to finance the services from the Digital Circle services. So that's quite a roundup of our first micro enterprise. I would say that this micro enterprise in particular has evolved naturally. Nothing was rushed. The members have come and gone with time, depending on personal capacity. It's not a place where we have at the moment capacity to offer a kind of full-time employment. It's a place where people come to contribute and they have other income from elsewhere as well. I would say it is a good place for freelancers who have the time and capacity and want to work with other people. So the jobs are very collaborative, and you are required to work with other people in order to be successful into this role, especially with other colleagues, but also with the clients who may have varying degrees of tech knowledge. Another aspect of the service is that we don't only provide the services like the tech support service or hosting or whatever. We also try to educate the clients as much as possible so that they are able to maintain their own tech stack. So if they run out of money to pay us for tech support next year, hopefully they've learned enough to be able to do most of that work themselves. And then they would only bring us in if they have major issues with their technology or infrastructure. Something interesting that this service team provides is also access to Nextcloud, like I said, which is a Google Drive ethical alternative. And I would say here that all of the services that we provide, with the exception of Miro, all the tools are open source, and we make sure that we always try to find the best open source tool for our clients so that we maintain our ethical basis. In relation to Miro, which is the only not open source tool that we have, we are looking for an open source alternative to replace it with. So we definitely want to stay in the ethical space of the service. We also believe that permaculture domain, which is basically covering the digital perspective. There is a lot to be done in the permaculture movement to move permaculturists away from proprietary software and into more ethical open space alternatives. So we do a lot of also education around this topic. Okay, so I think that's the digital circle. The website for the digital circle or information about it can be found on the CoLab website, which is perma.earth, or on the digital circle website, which is the digitalcircle.org. Don't worry about the links, those will be posted in the description later. Okay. So another micro enterprise, which is very new, it only started last year, is the Permaculture Convergence team. This is permacultureconvergence.org. And it's a small, let's say, sub micro enterprise of the digital circle. And we are using this website to try and provide, not to try, to provide services for permaculture and convergence organizers, and also to have a hub where permaculture convergence attendees can find out about the latest events. We also have on this website a history of convergences in the past, which we have been compiling with the help of the public and also from our research, especially in collaboration with the Convergence research team, which is a part of the Next Steps project within the CoLab. And we have quite a small grant to pay for this at the moment. So we use the money from the grant to build the necessary infrastructure and the history of the convergences to kickstart off. And the idea is that within this one website or within this one team, we can provide for all the tech needs and also organizational support and funding necessities to permaculture convergence organizers. So this is an effort across different micro enterprises. That includes the digital circle, the funding circle services team, the convergence research team, and other teams which are interested in contributing towards the success of permaculture convergences around the world. It's quite new. We are still expanding and solidifying these services by having agreements between the different teams. As you can imagine, there's a lot to juggle when you are offering like packaged services across different domains, which is what this is the first time that we are doing this here specifically. And it shows some promise, and there's about 40 members there. That's Candida, Ryan, and Javier, and myself. And we are hoping to have a kind of bigger launch either by the end of this year or beginning of next year. But the website's already live, and I will drop a link to it later on so that you can check it out as well. So that's a small micro enterprise, again, the start of which has been funded a little to get us going. There was also a lot of sweat equity around it, and there was the support of the digital circle infrastructure, which was really critical to start off with this. Purchase the domain, get the website hosted, and the design done, and the grant was then used for research and putting together these agreements with other teams. And now we are stepping into the outside communication spaces. So that's the permaculture convergence micro enterprise. There's something to say about this, that it lives within the digital circle services as a subset. So the management of it, like the invoice, would come out to a client from the digital circle services, and then all the other teams would invoice the digital circle collective in order to get paid. So that's just a technical thing. What I didn't mention also before is that all these teams use the Open Collective to operate. This is a requirement from the CoLab that micro enterprises that are in the CoLab have to use transparent accounting systems so that people can see how much money is coming in and where it's going out and what's it being spent on. It just adds a layer of accountability, and the CoLab can manage the reputational risk in onboarding these new micro enterprises, which are still especially in the experimentation phase and so on. And that's true for all circles. All circles use Open Collective for open accounting. It also allows micro enterprises to apply for funds, for grants, and collect donations. So that's really, it's important that even though these groups are intercorporated and they're not a company, none of them are, they are still able to behave like a company where it matters. So when you issue invoices, when you make a grant application, when you are making an agreement with a client that's external. So all of these wouldn't be possible without that fiscal host arrangement through Open Collective. Okay, so up to now I've covered the permaculture convergence and the digital circle. Now I want to move to a different domain. So the next circle, micro enterprise I'm going to talk about is the funding circle services team. This is a very small team. That's Tanya and myself right now. We are in open circle, what we would call true contributions, and I will explain a little bit what it means. So there's two aspects to the circle, right? One is the funding circle, which is like a general space, a Slack channel, where people can join and they can have a look at what's being shared there, and they can also share funding opportunities with other people, especially we're targeting grants that would be fitting any permaculture domain. So social impact work, open source tech, any domain that falls within the permaculture ethics and principles would be shared there. And a part of this, we have been working towards having a part of what we do as open for everybody. So this is what you would find in the funding circle channel. There would be some training opportunities for people to learn how to write their funding profile, for example, access to funding opportunities that are being shared. And of course, anyone who is a member of that Slack channel can contribute towards this. And this is what I mean, an open circle through contribution. So anyone who wants to can contribute in it. Then there's the second aspect to it. And this is where the services team comes in as a subset of that bigger circle. And the funding circle services team is comprised of Tanya and myself. And what we would do as a micro enterprise now is to provide grant matching, grant writing, and grant management services in return for a fee or for payment. And the idea is that we have a kind of freemium setup in this case, so anyone can access the opportunities. But if you need more help with it and sustained help, especially to find the right funding, apply for it and manage it, then we're able to offer that as a service. The services are offered also on an individual basis. So you could decide, I only want to use the grant matching right now. And then later, if you have a match, you can decide, okay, I want to move on to the next service and so on and so forth. So you don't have to sign up for the big package all at one time. If we feel that someone has been contributing in the funding circle channel a lot, and they have the skills that are necessary to do funding research, grant writing, and have experience in project management of funded projects, then for sure, we would be happy to speak to them about joining the funding circle services team. But we are not actively going out and looking for other members. We want the funding circle services team to grow organically rather than chase after it. And this is, again, what I meant by an open circle through contribution. It's been an interesting time. We've started the funding circle services at the beginning of the Next Steps project, I think, mostly. So that would be now 2 years that we have been working on it. The CoLab is our client, similar to the situation with the digital circle services, and we have been grant matching the CoLab and some of the projects within it with funding opportunities and making funding applications, hopefully, that would hopefully result in funding. We haven't been successful yet, but hopefully that will happen. That will happen before we run out of the current contract, which would be the end of next year. Obviously, applying for funding is stressful. I would say it's stressful for our clients and also sometimes stressful for the consultants who are helping them, because it's coming from a place of need, right? Where people are looking to fund their projects and invest the time in making applications and so on. So there is a lot of expectation around this. And I think a big part of the job is to try and manage people's expectations. There's also something interesting here that I think I should mention, is that there's different ways of fundraising. And we, at the moment, the Funding Circle Services team focuses on grant funding rather than crowdsourcing, for example, or other models. So we decided to try this model first, as we were just starting out, and hope maybe in the future we will be able to diversify and also cover other types of funding. But that's where we are right now. I would say that the funding opportunities that are posted in the Funding Circle Slack channel are also shared on the funding database, funding opportunities database, which is available to the public, also to non-CoLab members, on the CoLab website, which is perma.earth/funding-opportunities. So you can have a look on that page if you want. And that database is maintained up to date. For anyone who needs it. It's a really good, I think, one of the biggest funding opportunities databases that exist right now on the internet, and covers all the permaculture domains and areas of work that we feel permaculture projects would fit into. So if you haven't seen it, I recommend that you check it out. Similarly to the digital circle, we, as I said, every microenterprise uses Open Collective, so this is also the case here. And we also have an income sharing pot, so that 10% of everything we make goes into that pot to help manage the costs. We also have at the moment a small grant which pays for our hosting needs and tech support and software needs, which we have. For example, the funding opportunities database sits on base row, and this is provided by the Digital Circle Services team as a service to the Funding Circle. Okay, so that's the Funding Circle Services. And I want to move on to the Learn team. The Learn team is a small team of 3 people. That's Danielle, Charlie, and myself. It's also an open circle, but by invitation. Now I will explain what that means. But first I want to explain what the Learn team is. Learn.perma.earth is a website which is a kind of learn for good, which means there are courses that are open which are aligned with permaculture. Not necessarily permaculture design courses or introduction to permacultures, but any course that is aligned with permaculture is accepted within this model. It's set up on e-learning website, basically, and we welcome courses from permaculture teachers or aligned teachers to publish their courses there for free. So we have a couple of models. If you are not charging people to take your course, we host it for free, with subject to the condition that we have a donation button. So donations that then go towards the tech and infrastructure support. Or we have a paid for model where if you're charging for your course, we agree to take 50% of the income from that course so that we can cover our costs. It's basically a help. So that course providers don't have to put any money up front in order to host their courses. So far, we've had good success. I would say we've had a bigger course from the Transition Network, which went really quite well. We have started also adding new courses last year, and hopefully next year there will be even more. It's quite a new project. I would say it needs a bit more marketing and more people to know more about it, but overall it's showing good promise. Charlie also does copywriting services, so there is a service which, so apart from this hosting your courses, you can also hire Charlie basically to do copywriting, check your course, test it, and tweak it so that it fits the audience that you are trying to address. So this is a kind of interesting setup that is different from the freemium model which we've seen before. It's more of an income share. And it approaches the solution of how to get a product on the market, but still in a good way where people can access it, but still cover your costs. I think so far so good at the moment. We also have an income sharing model here in this team, and we also use Open Collective, so that's pretty similar from that aspect to other micro enterprises. Okay. Last micro enterprise I want to talk about today is the Minimum Viable Academy. This has an interesting story because all the other circles were kind of born in the CoLab already, and this is one circle that was not born necessarily from the CoLab. I'll explain. So the original founders of the Minimum Viable Academy were Nenad, Stefan, Joe, and myself, but the connector was Nenad. So Nenad and myself, we were both CoLab members, but Joe and Stefan were not. They came from a different network called the Greater Than. And what was interesting was that I think actually Stefan came from Greater Than, but Joe came from even a different network, which was the Global Regeneration CoLab. All great, excellent networks. If you want to look them up, I can also link you. And we decided to come together and have a conversation about forming a new academy. It was basically targeting training for facilitators, from facilitators, and around organizational community training, which was really interesting for me. I was super excited about it. And I was also interested in it because I hadn't seen this kind of, let's say, birth of a micro enterprise before, where people have come from outside of the CoLab specifically to join into a micro enterprise. And I would say it was very successful. So we had a very successful first year. We went through the whole team formation because we didn't know each other from before. Nenad knew everybody, but everybody didn't know each other. And so I think I will remind you about this story in the next session, because in the next session, we talk about resources and tools for the birthing of new micro enterprises. And I will make reference to this. So we used all sorts of tools to basically go from 4 people who didn't know each other into a cohesive team. We had no infrastructure, we had no agreements, we had nothing. So we had to, first of all, onboard Joe and Stefan onto the CoLab, explain what the CoLab is about, how it works, the constraints of starting a micro enterprise into this CoLab, which was quite a new space for them, and get them from knowing nothing to confident enough to incubate. So that was a really interesting journey of, let's say, co-creation and meeting quite frequently, and it was quite exciting. And it came at a time where we had the opportunity, the 4 of us as a team, to apply for funding through the Next Steps project to provide training within the CoLab, which was very successful. We are now in the 2nd year of this training programs, and we have another year to look forward to. We started quite strong as a 4-person team, and then with time, Nenad and Stefan didn't have enough time capacity to contribute to the team, so they dropped off, but me and Joe continued to work together very well. And we have made agreements with the Learn team to use their website to host our project page, because we've felt that the education element between the 2 projects were overlapping. So it was an interesting way to see that we didn't need to make extra expenses. So even though Digital Circle is already offering their services to Learn, our team didn't have to pay extra, right? Because the Learn team already had it in place, and we could just slot in within the education factor, we've made a memorandum of understanding, which is a non-legally binding document, but it outlines how we will work well together. It was accepted by both teams, and this is now in place. The Minimum Viable Academy also doesn't have its own collective, but its monies live part with the digital circle, where we collect donations, and part with the Learn team. So now I think in this year, there is a little bit work to do to consolidate our, let's say, financial position there in that aspect. But it's worked very well because it kept overheads low, and we could slot into what other people were already doing and enhance it. And this was a very interesting journey for us, because then we could, without having that burden, we could concentrate on doing what we do best, which was this facilitation and focus for the group. I'm going to also link to this page so you can have a look at it. And we have set up from a micro enterprise perspective, so not only the grant to provide to the CoLab, but we also provide paid services, paid delivery of our different offerings to different clients. And we've had also external clients who first attend CoLab training and then decide to hire us to deliver in their organizations, which was pretty good. I think it has a lot of potential as a micro enterprise, not only to deliver live training, but also to provide the e-courses, the trainings as e-courses. And this is where the collaboration really comes into play. And it's been really good to have that support of the Learn team that we could rely on, so that we didn't have to worry about setting up an extra website and all this. And the interesting thing about this team that's maybe a little different than other teams is that, and this is also true for the Learn team, is that we have a happy money story agreement. This is where the work is not, we charge the client a set fee, but then internally we decide through the telling of our story of how the relationship went with the client, what each of us did, and our financial current situation. And then we decide together how to divide the compensation between us. This has worked really well between myself and Jonah. We have a strong relationship, so we feel comfortable talking about money and our financial situation. And this worked very well. In the third session, which is the next one, I will outline all of these techniques and different ways, the memorandums of understanding and the agreements, and how we form a team and how to co-create a vision. I'm going to cover all of this there, so don't you worry if something is flying right over your head right now. But remember this happy money story. I will mention it again at the next event. Where we are today with Minimum Viable Academy is that we have an interesting insight as to what's needed and what's marketable, and we try and go where we identify the needs most for the client. We have a lot of different offerings, from conflict transformation to remote business collaborations and really all sorts. And all different and interesting topics, which you can access recordings for. Even so, if you're a new CoLab member and you haven't been to any of our recorded sessions, you can access those recordings as a CoLab member through the CoLab website. That's perma.earth. Or you can visit the Minimum Viable Academy page on the Learn website. And you can also, if you're not a CoLab member, and you can pay a small fee to access the recordings there. We do have an income sharing agreement with the Learn team, obviously, because they're hosting us. So we agree to split the earnings, anything that we sell, they get 50% of. And we make sure that so that we can contribute to the expenses of the infrastructure. Okay. I think I've done pretty well today. The last item I want to cover is your micro enterprise. So if you are here and you think, I find all of these micro enterprises interesting, but it's not actually for me. This is, I have other ideas, or I have an idea for a different micro enterprise or a different service within an existing micro enterprise, and where do I start? if you are interested in a currently existing microenterprise to offer an enhanced service or a service within that, then the first thing to do is to contact the circle members. Don't worry about knowing who they are right now, because I will post the artifact and also some screenshots of who is in the circle and the names and everything and where to find the contact information, and you will know exactly where to go if you're watching this recording later, especially. And so that's microenterprises in the existing. Remember, some of them are open by invitation or open by contribution. So try and build a relationship with those people that are in the circle by also contributing to their work. As any microenterprise, a startup is always a lot of sweat equity, so expect to be putting in some sweat equity if you want to build a relationship and trust with existing things. If you want to build your own microenterprise or have an idea for a microenterprise, and are looking for partners, then I suggest that you come to the next session, especially, and that you rewatch the first session. Why? Because the first session tells you exactly the framework that you need to follow and what are the ingredients of a microenterprise in the CoLab. And the last session will give you all the tools necessary that you can implement in starting your own. I would say step one is to be clear in yourself, to have a self-reflective exercise. What are you bringing to the table? How much time you have to invest into this? Are you willing to work on it with other people? I would say if the answer is no, then abort everything, because this is a collaborative laboratory. You are expected to collaborate. And as you will see in the first session that was recorded, the minimum microenterprise is made up of at least 2 people. So really the focus is on a lot on collaboration. And be ready to and willing to collaborate with other circles, especially if you need them. If you need services from other circles, it's really helpful to be open and to engaging with other circles around the CoLab who may be able to help you. If you are one person right now, I suggest you start posting about your idea to other people, maybe in the Everybody channel, attend events, illustrate a little bit what is this idea about, try to organize a meeting. Maybe people will be interested in coming and learning more about it. And you can also use the tools available to you as a CoLab member. So in that case, we have the Slack workspace. It's a space where you can talk to everybody there about your idea. Use the CoLab newsletter if you're looking for partners. The CoLab newsletter also reaches outside people who are interested in permaculture in general. It goes to about 600 people. And also you can use the CoLab LinkedIn. And if you want to do that, then I recommend you read the communications guidelines. I can link to this in the description as well, that we have, and the communications team will be able to help you. This obviously goes to an external audience. I would say I recommend starting from an internal audience and building relationships with people who are already here. Then the process is a lot easier. Then you don't have to worry so much about going through the onboarding process for others first, which does take some time. The onboarding calls are once a month. So maybe you have to wait some weeks in order to get the new people in. But it's possible. So if you have time and you want to invest into this, then yes, absolutely possible. Just like we did with the MVA, with the Minimum Viable Academy team. It was super worth it to bring new people into the CoLab for that idea, especially because Neynat had already he knew already he wanted to work with these people, and he knew that the new people would like the CoLab because he knew them well. Yes, that's the start. So plant the seeds, get talking, collaborate, show up for training, make use of the resources we have, and organize. You can also organize one-to-one meetings with myself. I'm here to help you with any startup idea or microenterprise idea you have for the CoLab. And I can guide you, and we can set up more one-to-one sessions about this topic. Especially talking around problem solving or how to approach different things and how to get best results in this ecosystem specifically. Okay, that's pretty much it for today. If you're watching the recording, then please leave your comments in the comment section. And thank you so much, Frank, for coming and for your feedback. Thanks.